right. Mike Norvell and his staff are trying to get something done here with a massive human being in 6'7", 330-pound Amarius Mims, former five-star. And this isn't a guy that was a five-star like in 2018 and he was a bust somewhere. No, he's still a youngin', as Logan would say. 2019 class commit. Well, actually 2021 class. Yes. He's not been around long. He just can't get on the field. He's looking for a new destination, but we're talking the #1 player in the state of Georgia in his recruiting class, a top 10 player, five-star. Wow. This would be a good get.
Yeah, no, this would be a big-time addition to Florida State's team overall, but yes, offensive line that, during the spring kind of had its ups and downs. You're definitely going to still look into the portal, and it so has it that you've got Amarius Mims, which you built a really good connection with during his recruitment. I mean, we got to hear a lot of good things from Mims, but also just through sources and his connection with Coach Atkins. I mean, those two got along very, very well, and that's what led to, a close call for him. Ended up picking Georgia, and that was kind of expected. But you got to see Florida State starting to make these pushes, not only for Mims, but these other high target talented players around the country. And that's what Florida State's done a really good job at, is building these relationships. And Mims is one of those top tier players that Florida State has now been able to, get these relationships built that they haven't been able to do in years past. And this guy is one that immediate starter coming in if he were to come to Florida State. You're competing now with another school that's being reported, and state rival Miami. And I think a lot of this is going to have to do with potentially NIL. And I think Florida they don't have to do much more with the coaching staff and building that relationship, because I think that's already set and tied. Mims really enjoys being around this current coaching staff in Tallahassee. We know how well they get along and how well he does, specifically with Coach Atkins, who, has done a really good job on the trail for Florida State, not only just in his position, but outside of it, helping other assistants, bond and build those relationships between players. So I think this is going to go NIL, and Florida State's trying very hard on the Rising Spear. I still think Rising Spear they're still behind. It's good. This is great. Now they're starting to pick up some social media steam and stuff. And I've had multiple meetings with them months ago, and there's definitely been big time growth, and that's been great to see. I still think they're a little bit behind, but from what things I'm hearing, there's a situation where they've built up certain packages for if these situations were to arise. And it's not just only Amarius Mims. There's other guys that are still on other rosters that if things were to happen, they're a step ahead. And, Florida State is most likely, this is not Florida State. This is Rising Spear. Those two guys can't align on something like this necessarily, but the Rising Spear crew seems like they've got something in store for Mims that is able to battle a team that you look at Miami and you hear about the billionaires and all this kind of stuff. That's great, that's awesome, but if Florida State has something prepared for Mims ahead, you connect that with that connection already in Tallahassee, and that helps a whole lot. And the relationship with Atkins. So, I think there's things, it's still daylight. We'll see what happens. I think we'll hear a lot more tomorrow morning, in my opinion.
Logan, for those of us down here, obviously Miami, they think that they can just throw money at it. I mean, they did that with Devin Shapiro. They think they're doing that with John Ruiz. Just throw money at the problem, and that's what they're going to do. Do you legitimately, putting your Florida State degree to the side for a minute, you've covered this team, can Florida State's legitimate coaching relationships compete with Miami's checkbook right now to get him in here?
Depends on how much Miami's got to offer over there, in my opinion. The biggest factor, though, is that relationship with Atkins and Norvell. It's really those two that they built that bond. Man, it went really strong there throughout his recruitment, like I had mentioned earlier, and it went all the way down to Florida State's in that box there. and that top list for Mims. And, of course, you go down and you go up and play and nearby for Kirby Smart. And, the biggest thing from what I was just told a couple hours ago, that this is really going to come down to family and being close and location to his family. So that bodes well for Florida State, a little bit better than down south and down south in Florida and Miami, if it does intend on being maybe between Miami or other schools that are possibly being reported. But I think too, James is probably going to talk about it here in a second. I think a lot of things that maybe people are putting out there and maybe reporting. First off, a lot of outlets have to keep their subscribers. Let's keep that in mind. You got to keep on kind of feeding them a few things every couple of hours a day. So it kind of keeps your users coming back. James will say, we don't have to really worry about subscribers as much. If we're hearing stuff, there's no reason for us just to keep on throwing stuff to stir the frenzy and make fans go crazy a little bit. I think it was really early on to jump onto things. I think FSU fans, too, are the ones that fuel that fire a little bit. They've got to have a little bit of patience and such. But, if things arise, then we will share a little bit more. But it's also worth noting that the kid just did enter the transfer portal. So let it take some time a little bit. Let it marinate. Let the calls be done. Let the texts. Of course, Florida State is highly interested in Amarius Mims. They would get in contact right away. Yes, that checks all the boxes. But for us to say, this visit's happening here, he's on campus, this is what's going on. No. Are things happening? Absolutely. I can confirm that things are happening. But let's just take a little bit of time. And this is kind of the same way how I was before with Jared Verse, Tatum Bethune. And then when things kind of came our way, made a prediction, and 5 out of 5 for both of those guys. So I'm just letting things marinate, let it cool a little bit, and let it come to me. I don't like to do the rushing. I like the Nuggets to come to me.